All right, so my name's Desyra Highsmith. I actually work here at William Patterson University in the Office of Human Resources. So if you're not entirely familiar with what Human Resources does, we are, of course, involved in hiring employees. We're responsible, of course, for recruiting and posting positions. We're responsible for their performance management. And what that means is ensuring that they're performing to expectations, whatever that may be. So when you go out into the job market and you see, job descriptions that you find attractive and qualifications that you need and things you need to be able to do, when you actually get the job, you'll be held to those standards. And so performance management is how that's done, through performance reviews and things of that nature. So some of the basic things we're going to be talking about today with the basics of professionalism and customer service are meant to help you not only in your functions here, but also to help to prepare you and give you a little bit of a glimpse and insight into what your future employers will be looking for, will be evaluating you against, will be assessing you around. Professionalism is a very, kind of generic word, and it means a lot of different things to different people. And of course, depending on the culture that you work in, that will depend on what is considered professional in that environment. So I remember working for a huge company where people came in like flip-flops and t-shirts, but they were like a multi-million-dollar company, very successful, but that was the culture. So then that's okay, right? I've worked for other companies like MetLife, larger companies that are very specific, very professional. They want you to wear a suit and tie, and that's the culture there, and that's all right. So we'll talk today about some generalities when it deals with, appearance and culture and things of that nature, but you'll have to feel it out and learn and ask questions, when you go into your futures and have different jobs and work in different environments, and you'll watch and learn what's acceptable and what's considered professional. But, my hope is that when you take some of these things, it'll make you stand out. And that's our hope for you, is that when you leave here, that you're prepared with the foundation to help you stand out and make an impact and not have to be kind of working against the current of some of the things other people haven't been informed about and they don't know. So it'll prepare you that much more to be able to focus on your performance, your contributions, all the wonderful things that you know and are waiting to contribute, and not have to worry about some of the basic foundational things of professionalism. Some of it's going to seem very basic and self-evident, but we have to be mindful of it because, believe it or not, people are evaluating you, making assessments about you based on some of these things, and it'll be really helpful for you not only now but throughout your careers. Okay? So as I mentioned, I'm in Human Resources, but my function is Director of Talent Management. So what that means is, that talent is the buzzword now for employees and people that contribute to an organization. So managing talent means managing who comes in as our talent, whether it's a faculty member or an employee, and then managing their experience here, making sure they have a great experience and they're engaged and they love what they do and are being treated well, and that they're developed and they grow and they get training so that as they come in, they are growing in their professionalism, their expertise, and their knowledge. Okay, so that's a little bit about what I do on the day-to-day. Okay? So, starting with some of the basics of professionalism. So, general characteristics of professionalism are very similar to the characteristics it requires to be just a really good human being. Being honest, being skilled and courteous. The basic things, that you learned early on in life are the things that are necessary to be a professional in the workplace. Okay, so sometimes we are very familiar and friendly and comfortable and casual with our coworkers, which is great. You want to have that bond, that relationship, that comfort, right? But there's always this line when you're in the workplace about what's considered professional versus what's considered unprofessional. All right? So things like being reliable, considerate, dependable, cooperative, and committed probably are no-brainers, okay? But we don't always think of it in that way when it comes to being professional. One thing is you're developing a reputation. While you're here right now, you're developing a reputation among your coworkers. You're developing a reputation amongst your supervisors. You're developing a reputation among your customers. And that will carry with you. You never know who you will encounter later on down the road. So you want that reputation to follow you. And all of these things are some foundational actions to help you build that reputation of being just a good, solid person. Okay? And I hear that a lot in the professional world. That's a real good guy. She's great. She's real solid. Because they have the nice and normal people skills that you would expect from a good person. So that's, ground zero of professionalism. Okay? So professionalism is also judged through our image. How we dress, how we present ourselves, how we carry ourselves. You're developing an image with every touch point and every interaction when you're dealing with your customers and when you're dealing with your coworkers and you're dealing with your supervisors. They're developing kind of a perception of who you are as a professional. Okay? So how we communicate is another thing we're going to talk about. How clear are we? How frequent do we communicate? Do we communicate the right information? How generous are we with the things that we communicate? And also our demeanor. Okay? Are we kind of this person that operates with a lot of energy and excitement? Are we real laid back and people don't really come to us because they know they're not going to get the job done? Right? What's our demeanor? And how are people interpreting all of that? So also keep in mind that what you intend might not necessarily be what's being translated or perceived. So be reflective as you hear some of these things. Step outside of yourself for a moment to think, I might intend to be extremely cooperative and courteous, but my ways might seem a little resistant or argumentative to others. How can I smooth those edges out to be more of a collaborative, cooperative team player and improve my image and my professional reputation? Okay, so just be reflective as we go through some of these items. Okay? So some of these things we mentioned before of being courteous and dependable. So courteous, means the basics. Always being mindful of being courteous. Always being mindful of saying thank you when someone helps you. Always being mindful of saying please. And always being mindful of those basics. Good mornings. How are you? I've worked with teams of people where their biggest complaint was that their supervisor would walk in the office, go to their office, and never say good morning to anyone. And I'm sure many of you will be supervisors and managers and directors one day. So it's really important to build those skills now. It means a lot to people, it means a lot to your colleagues, and it means a lot to your supervisor. Okay? Competence. As professionals, never rely on what it is that you know. You know a lot, I'm sure, but always be pushing yourself and growing in your competence. That's how you build your reputation. Your influence, your persuasiveness, your ability to recommend things and for people to listen to you and want to support your ideas, that comes from competence. That comes from results. Okay? So learning your craft, grooming your craft, taking every opportunity to develop, that also builds your reputation. When you don't know something, you encounter something you don't know, instead of passing the buck to someone else that might know it, get the help from them, but learn it. And the more you have in your tool belt of things that you can pull from and you know how to do that, the more you establish yourself as a competent professional. Right? Always being respectful. Okay, so obvious. But in the workplace, again, especially when you're working with colleagues and peers that you might have personal friendships with too, to never cross that line between what's considered friendly banter and what's respectful. So, I've had to teach different populations from different cultures, different experiences, different industries, and they might have a difference in what they believe is respectful or disrespectful. So I've worked in organizations where, if a woman walked by and she looked really pretty, they didn't think there was anything wrong with saying, something to her or acknowledging that. And so we have to make that separation as respect and professionalism, that what might be appropriate outside of the workplace isn't acceptable within the workplace and could lead to issues with what your image is and what people think of you. So always keeping that line. You might want to laugh with friends and make jokes and everything, and that's great. Work doesn't have to be super serious all the time, But when the line crosses that customers are seeing behaviors that is just too loose and too comfortable and friendly and does not reflect the workplace, that's when you've crossed the line. So being mindful of that and knowing that they're always watching you and that supervisors are always noticing those things. And that goes back to, respecting yourself, respecting the workplace environment. Okay? Acting with integrity is important, as we all know, in everything. So in the workplace, always taking the opportunity to do what's right. If you're asked to do something wrong, you don't do it. But always act with integrity. And eventually, those acts, those ethical acts will build up to, again, build up and develop your persona, your image, and the perception of your professionalism because you're ethical and you make good choices. You treat people the right way and fairly. Okay? And being considerate and empathetic. So especially when you're in an industry like you're in where you have all of this knowledge and you're probably dealing with customers that have far less. They're calling you because they're having technical difficulties, they're having challenges, and they have a variety of backgrounds and experiences and comfort levels with technology. You may encounter people that you're like, oh my gosh, how do they not know this? Being empathetic is a huge part of customer service, and it's a huge part of leadership. You'll encounter people that will report to you that have a variety of different skill sets and values and abilities. You're going to encounter customers that have a variety of skill sets and backgrounds and abilities. Maintaining that empathy, that they are where they are and not judging them and not becoming frustrated with them will again be a huge part of the character that you will be identified to have. Okay? Okay. So trust and respect, we talked a little bit about respect, but trust is equally important. So with that competence and with that experience starts to develop a trust. I know I can go to you and you're going to know the answer. I know I can depend on you if you are assigned this project that you're going to finish it. I know that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it, right? So that integrity and that trust factor is the X factor when it comes to really developing your reputation. And that happens over time with every touch point. That customer was happy. That customer said, wow, you finished that faster than I ever expected it to be done. Wow, this supervisor had to be out sick and you covered and you did all of that stuff that was left behind. All of those things when we start to know, wow, we can trust this person to work with our team, to be a team player, to always come through. All right, so that's part of the trust. That's a huge piece of the reputation that you'll develop as you go through your careers. We talked about all of these other ones, but accountability is probably the biggest thing when it comes to performance management, which, if you remember, is how you're reviewed. When you get a job, every 6 months to every year, you're getting a review. And in many environments, that review that you get is tied to what your increase is, what kind of raise they give you, or what kind of promotions you're up for. So it's hugely important. Accountability means I know this is mine, I own it, and I'm going to make it happen. It's not passing the buck. It's not saying I couldn't because of this and because of that. We all have reasons, we all have lives, we all have challenges, and we all have experiences. At the end of the day, when you're an employee, what's concerned to your supervisor and to that organization is that you're accountable to the responsibilities that are listed within your job description and the goals and the projects that you were assigned. So that might seem kind of big and far-fetched here now, but even in this environment and in this experience, you're probably given small projects to do or customers to take care of or things that you need to resolve. And if you're accountable in the small things, there's a belief that you will probably be accountable for the larger things. That's how you build that foundation of trust where people will start to give you more and more and more because they know that you've developed that character of accountability. Right? Okay, so communication, huge, huge, huge. being able to communicate with all kinds of people in an organization is hugely important. But these are some basic things. So in your position now, keeping in mind that the people that your supervisors are likely going to be the people that you're going to ask for a reference from at some point. When you go for a job, you know they're going to ask for a resume, you know about a cover letter, I'm sure, but they also ask for references. They want to know who are your professional references and who maybe is a personal reference. So maybe you have a family member, a longtime friend that you feel could provide a great personal reference, but now you're going to think, well, who can I call on that would give me a really positive professional reference? And what would they say about me? What would I say about me? Right? So communicating with your supervisor about challenges that you have, about your desires and aspirations, things that you would like to learn, issues you're having, or even if it's a problem that's going to challenge your ability to contribute in some way. Always err on the side of over-communication. Rarely can you over-communicate. And if you, even to say, you know, I know we had this discussion, I just wanted to remind you that I'm not coming in tomorrow. I had put in that day a couple of weeks ago, but I just want to remind you. Sure, you did it already. But if you're a great communicator, you over-communicate a little bit because your supervisor has a lot on their mind, a lot on their plate. You might say, oh, thank you for telling me. I forgot to get someone to cover your shift. Right? So err on the side of over-communication. Be mindful of other people's schedules and challenges and things they have going on. If you have something that's going to take a little time and you want to discuss it, send an Outlook request, put some time on a calendar and say, I'd like to just carve out 15 minutes to talk to you about something. Okay? That's what professionals do. They don't just bombard people in the hallway and say, I need to talk to you now. They try to carve out that time and get that focused attention. All right. So timeliness and reliability. Again, your professional appearance, your professional reputation, this is huge as well. Can I depend on you to show up on time? And I'm like, all right, it's Monday, so-and-so's going to be an hour too late. Or it's Friday, so-and-so's cutting out an hour too early. We know that. How reliable are you? Can we set our watch to you? Can we depend on you? And the people that have these qualities, that are reliable, that are timely and prompt, they're the ones when their mind goes, oh, I have this promotion, or I have this new opportunity, or I've even seen it where it's like, this person is so amazing, we don't want to lose them. Let's create something bigger for them because they're so awesome. We think we should create a position for them. That's the kind of wow you want to make, and that's the kind of wow that gets you moving up. All right? And this is basic stuff, okay? Show up on time, and if you need to be out, you call, you over-communicate. Hey, I just wanted to make sure you got my voicemail that I'm sick this morning, or my car broke down, or I have to take my mother to the hospital, whatever it is. I just want to make sure you got the message. Or follow up with an email. This email is to follow up on the voicemail I left you. Because we're all tethered to our phones. We know they have that, but maybe they didn't check their voicemail yet. So those are the kind of things that will really impress a supervisor that this person's professional. They took the extra measure to make sure that we were covered and prepared. It shows they care about their job, and they care about the work that they're doing because they care that coverage can be planned for. Right? When you have a change of plans last minute, or something, happens and you just decide to not come, that really impacts the team, and it makes team members feel like that person doesn't care about them. I've seen teams where simply because that person is unreliable, it's fracturing the team dynamic. I know you've all had projects in school where you've worked on it. Somebody was like the weak link. Somebody didn't come through with their piece. You had to do extra work, or somebody was always late with their stuff. And it makes the team feel a certain kind of way about that person. And you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person that they say, we know they're going to come through with their stuff every time they are a team player. Okay? And you hear that terminology, team player, and that's what that means. You care about them. Emergencies happen. We get it. We know that. But there are also people that get a kind of a history and a cadence of unaccountability and unreliability, and those are the people that you don't want to become like. Okay? What's this? All right. So like a sick day. Okay, you have a sick day and you're like, oh my gosh, I got it, I can't. But what you do is you try to request permission in advance, of course, but you don't know when you're going to get sick. And like I mentioned, you notify your supervisor, give them as much advance notice. If you get up super early and like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it tomorrow, and it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, send that quick email. Say, look, this is what's going on. You want to demonstrate that you're super considerate of the fact that your absence can leave an additional weight on that manager to have to cover for you. Okay, confidentiality. So this kind of goes to, the work ethic piece and integrity. You may have access, whether here or in future positions, to a lot of confidential information, records and employee records and ID numbers. And it goes without saying that those types of things are never to be shared, because if it gets out that you have shared it, your discretion is now in question. And you never want that to be the case. You want to have this reputation to be trusted, and you'll find that when you're a person that can be trusted, more and more information is shared with you. More and more accesses, and you guys know all about levels of permissions and systems. More and more permissions are given because you can be trusted with the information and the data that you have. So it's hard in an environment like this. You know each other, you're probably casual, you're friends, and maybe you even know the people whose information you come in contact with. It takes a lot of self-control to not have those discussions around other people's personal matters. It really does build your credibility. It would weaken it if others were to hear you speaking about other people's personal information. And once you make a mistake and you might share something that you shouldn't, or you have some behaviors that are less than, supportive of your teammates, it's very difficult to reestablish your reputation. So think about it as, like this account that you have, and every time you do something positive, you're throwing a coin in your bank account. When you do something negative, somebody really hurts you. If they lie to you, or they're unfaithful in some way, or they steal from you, you don't just take out one coin. That thing is empty. You're done. And they have to build it all up again, one coin at a time, right, to demonstrate that that was a one-time offense. So it's similar in the workplace. One offense can really damage your reputation, so be very cognizant of everything that you do. Okay. So open communication. So often on these, performance evaluations, you will be evaluated on communication with others, right? So you'll be, maybe team members will rate you, or team members will give an evaluation survey of how you communicate with them. So being open and respectful. And what that means, too, is not being an information hoarder. Being generous with information never damaged anyone. And a person that feels as though they have to hold on to all of their information, not share it with others, does not really develop that generous kind of persona. So some of those things are very important. Giving supportive feedback generously, so complimenting one another. And again, some of these things you might take with you to the next level as you're a team leader, supervisor, manager, making sure to always give positive feedback. Always give people encouragement, whether it's your teammate members or your direct reports. Okay? Just like we like it, they like it too. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the functional trust, so I won't go on that, but professional behavior. So a couple of things to always be mindful of when we're in a very comfortable environment. So, some of you may live here, you go to school here, and you work here. So you're super comfortable, you know people, you're comfortable with the environment. So conversations and interactions might happen that you kind of feel are like off the clock. But when you're in the workplace, these kinds of behaviors are very unprofessional and would really damage the way that you're perceived, and it should be avoided at all costs. So of course, arguing. So maybe you disagree with one of your colleagues about how to address a problem, how to fix something, or how to take care of a customer issue. Having that argument or that heated discussion in front of others is considered very unprofessional. You have to find creative ways to do that. Say, you know what, why don't we take this offline and discuss this a little later? I see where you're coming from, but I have some other ideas. And wait for the customer to leave, and then you have your discussion. You have to find language that does not instigate an issue, but instead is looking just to find the solution. Of course, insults and verbal comments, you might just, really carelessly and not even thinking, call somebody a silly name or something that you do like because you're friends. But in the workplace, that's not acceptable. I've been in situations, I'm checking out somewhere and I'll hear the cashiers talking to one another, maybe a vulgar manner, or talking about very personal things they shouldn't be talking about on the floor, and it really demonstrates a level of unprofessionalism. And I feel for them that no one trained them in that, because their supervisor's listening, and that's going to prevent them from moving up. So take those things offline and off the floor. Verbal outbursts. I promise you, at some time in your career, you're going to disagree with somebody intensely. You're going to want to argue something. You're not going to agree. And you might want to have the normal reaction you might have outside of the workplace to react. But composure and a calmness is required for a professional reputation. How do you respond to those situations? How are you able to manage them so we're not instigating issues? All right? Obviously, threats of violence, we don't have to say that. Physical actions of threats towards another are all things we would definitely avoid. Okay? So focus on your customer. And as hard as it is to sometimes put down the distractions, when we're in a workplace, one of the biggest complaints I hear from supervisors or managers is, they're always on their phone, or they have their earphones in, or something of that nature. And that doesn't mean you're not being effective, because I know that I can have my earphones in and I could be typing something and creating something and be extremely effective. Again, it's how it appears. So how you appear in that situation is that you're shut off. When I have my earphones in my ear, someone will say to me, "Oh, I'm sorry." They think I'm on the phone, or I'm busy, so they stay away. That's the first reaction. You're busy, or you're doing something, or not available. So, if you're sitting with somebody, if you're having dinner with someone and they're reading the paper or they're listening to music, you'll feel like, wait a minute, I'm right here. Why are you not engaging with me? So when you're in the workplace, you engage in the work. You focus on the work. You focus on the people. There's no, I don't know what your rules are, but, in 99% of the workplaces, there's no headphones. We're not checking, texts and Facebook. We're finding moments to do that. If you're, you have a break or you have a lunch, you have times when you do that. And it's very, it's discouraging from a supervisor's point of view when they see that there's a lot to be done, and they can see somebody surfing the internet, they're on the phone, they're listening to music, and they think, well, they're telling me this can't be done, or they don't have enough time, but I see this stuff happening. So it's not a criticism of, what you're able and what you're individually capable to do while you have a lot of stuff going on, because some of us work better with distractions. It's how it appears to the customer and how it makes the workplace look. And think about if you had an office and you had a business, which hopefully someday you're managing and directing and leading organizations, you won't want to pay people to come to work to check Instagram. You want to pay them to come to work to contribute in the way that for whatever it was you hired them to do. So it's a huge thing to be mindful of, and it's definitely reflective, and be thinking about, the references that you might receive. This person was always highly engaged in their work. They were always responsible, completed all of their assignments on time. That's the language you hear for somebody that's not distracted and that is focused on their work. All right, so making a good impression, clothing-wise. So, in the workplace, I mentioned before, you have many different cultures of what's acceptable and what's not. And you should research that and ask questions when you go into a new environment. I've had a lot of, candidates, when they're hired, they say, what's the dress code? I worked for one company where the president would cut people's ties off when they work, because he hated ties. He wanted anybody wearing ties. I actually saw him take scissors and cut people's ties off. No ties in his company. So you have to ask what the culture is where you work. But for now, you can't go wrong with, neat, groomed, decent, tucked in clothes, things not wrinkled, everything covered. That's, the basics. And you probably have a dress code here. I'm sure you have shirts and things that you're supposed to wear. Staying true to the dress code is important, not only for your reflection, but also a customer knows who to find and who works here based on what they're wearing. So if you do have a dress code, it makes you stand out, especially in this environment where you have everybody, all of our students are, look like students. So you want to know that you work here versus you're here right now for an academic purpose. Okay. All right. So like I mentioned, when you leave this work world and you go into another work world, ask what's expected. Try to take cues from people. So maybe you go for an interview somewhere. Look at, what other people are wearing as you're sitting there waiting to go into the interview. Look at what the person interviewing you is wearing. And then when you get the job, you start, kind of at that level. If they're just wearing what they call, like workplace casual, a nice pants and a nice shirt, maybe you start with that and just take it up a little notch, because it's better to be a little bit over than under, right? Take it up a notch, and then as you start to learn the culture, what's acceptable, then you settle into whatever is required of you. Excuse me. And unfortunately, there are times when, people's professional appearance might actually impact their promotional opportunities. And I'll give you an example. Purchasing departments are departments that purchase all of the things for an organization, from the pens and the paper to, the materials to build a building, okay? So oftentimes they're meeting with vendors. They're going to meet with 1 million different vendors to determine who's the best supplier of whatever that is, who has the best prices. And so they're reflecting and representing the organization when they have these meetings. So there's a young lady that was very good at what she does. She was smart, but she came in with, she would wear like sneakers and sometimes really baggy sweatpants and big t-shirts and all of that. So that reflection preceded her capabilities. And she was given some coaching, but she felt like, well, I should be able to wear what I want to wear. That doesn't matter. But it did matter. It impacted the way that the vendors interacted and saw her. So she was really creating for herself an obstacle in her potential growth because of what she wasn't willing to address with her image and appearance. So that's just, an example of how it can be restrictive to your success and your growth. Okay. So letting them hear you smile. So I'm a big believer. People can hear you smile. When they're on the phone, they know if you're smiling and they know if you're not. Right? So when you're in customer service, having a smile is really important, and a genuine one. I'm not saying, to be phony and fake, but a genuine, pleasant smile that you are engaging with that customer and you care about helping them. They can hear that. And that also builds their comfort level interacting with you and the pleasantness of the interaction that they have for that service. So let them hear you smile. And I've even done interviews for customer service positions primarily over the phone, because I want to hear how they talk over the phone. How do they interact with people over the phone? How do they sound? Do they sound like they're smiling? Do they sound annoyed? I interviewed one woman over the phone and she just sounded completely ticked off, like she was just having the worst day ever. And that all came through the phone. So we didn't even move forward. So creating your experience and your image is really important, and also making sure that your customers feel the connection with you. So listening actively is huge. I mean, we could have an entire 8-hour class just on listening in general, but listening actively is especially important in your roles, because you're listening and having to interpret information from non-technical people and translate that information into a technical need or problem. And so deep listening and a sensitivity to what they could mean by that and what they do mean, and reflecting back to them what it is that they're saying to ensure that your interpretation is correct will help you to be more effective. Okay? So I'm sure you get the calls, or, my computer won't come on. Well, what do you mean it won't come on? It just won't come on, okay? So did you power it off? Did you plug it in? Did you check all of the control? You start to go through the troubleshooting of it. But it's frustrating when you're talking with people that can't communicate what you need to do what you need to do. So I understand that's probably a big point of frustration. So listening actively will help you try to paraphrase what it is they're saying to you, repeat it back. So what I hear you saying is, so what I understand is, okay, I got that, so can you tell me this? So now they feel like, oh, now we're engaged in a conversation, you're with me. Okay? So it's a little technique that you could use to help reflect back to that customer that I'm hearing you, I get it, and I'm listening. So you're smiling and you're paraphrasing. Okay? So this promptness piece is not about promptness at work, but more so about promptness to our responsiveness to a customer. So when you go out in the workplace, they'll have internal customers, external customers. You might be working on either side of the fence. So if you work in an organization and you're in an IT department, you're going to be dealing with your internal customers most likely. So you're going to build a reputation for how quickly do you get back. You're not always going to be at your desk to answer the phone. You may not always be tethered to your computer to see an email. But if they know, hey, so-and-so, I got your message, I'm looking into it, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Prompt service, prompt reply builds a reputation of an organization and a department as well. So you want to be that person that doesn't let things kind of sit in a queue for a long time. You want to be the kind of person that says, as soon as I see it, I'm on it, with some type of response. That's what a customer wants to see and feel that their issue is being addressed. So other things, besides answering calls promptly, when you have all kinds of different calls coming in, these are basics, but just, they deserve a little bit of a reminder. You have another call going in, we don't just let it ring and go to voicemail. You ask the current caller, excuse me, I have another call coming in, would you mind holding for just a moment, please? And you go to the other call, yes, sir, I'll be right with you, I'm on another call, could you please hold for a moment, please? And you go back, so that people feel like somebody's hearing them, okay, at least I know what's going on. As a customer, myself, and you are all customers too, you want to know that whoever you're calling cares, is listening, is responsive to you. So we want to increase the level of responsiveness that they feel and that they experience with all of these different touch points. Okay? We always thank people, back to the courteous piece. Thank you so much for holding. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Whatever that might be. Those are little things that start to tweak you up above the rest because of those little nuances of the way that you handle these situations. Okay? When people approach you while you're on the phone, you might excuse yourself from the caller for one moment, please. Let the visitor know, I'll be right with you, I'm just finishing up this call. Nothing I hate more is I walk up to a desk and somebody's on the phone, I know you see me there. And they just sit down and they look and they're on the phone and for like 5 minutes and I'm just standing there. They never acknowledge me. That makes a customer feel like, you know what, whatever, I'm going to go somewhere else. And it takes nothing to say, I see you, I'll be right with you. That's it. Those are the basics. And you can do the same with the caller, ask the visitor to wait a moment or the caller to wait a moment to make sure that you're engaging and you're managing people. And we don't have a department where calls are just being left to go to voicemail. Okay? Transferring calls. So oftentimes you might realize that a caller has called you in error and perhaps they should have called another department, another person, maybe there's another person better equipped to handle it and so you have to transfer the call. So there's etiquette involved in even transferring a call. We don't just say hold on and push a button and send them. What we do is we say, you know what, I'm gonna connect you with Brian, he's a specialist in this area. Hold one moment please while I connect you. By the way, his extension is this in case we get disconnected. Okay? All calls go to Brian. So, and if you can, if at all possible, and I tell this to our employees when serving you, don't just send someone over or call them first. Ask and make sure that person is there and that that's the right person to help so that you guys aren't sent in 1,000 different places. And just think of how it makes you feel if somebody says, oh, you got to go talk to the registrar about that. And you walk all the way to Morrison Hall, and they're like, oh, no, you have to go to student accounts in College Hall, and now you got to go all the way over there. You don't like that feeling, so we don't want to make others feel that way either. You want to say, okay, I think you need to talk to Renee in the registrar's office. Hold on 1 minute, let me double check. And you call, oh, she's at her desk. She said she's the one to take care of this. I'm going to transfer you now. Those touches show that you care. They show that you're professional. And as an employee, what we value most. A matter of fact, we have an award that we give to employee called the CARES Award, because we value that people care enough to do the right thing or to do what's extra to make something right for someone. So we even give employees awards when they demonstrate that. So anywhere you go, that's a valued quality, that you go the extra mile to show that you care. You care about the customer that you're serving. You care that they actually were connected to the right service. And you weren't just it wasn't a matter of getting it off your plate. It was a matter of serving the customer. Okay, I'm sure you don't do too much taking of messages. I'm sure there's more forwarding and voicemail things, but make sure when you do take a message that you are very complete in the information. It's difficult to manage because you have different shifts and different hours that you're working, that if someone comes onto their shift and they are looking at a message that you've left, make it as complete as possible. And that, again, that's out of courtesy to your coworkers. I want to make sure that you have all the information you need to respond to this customer. So that's why I'm going to go the extra mile to leave you a very complete message. Right? Okay, so a sense of urgency. Yes. Yeah.
I was just going to say, the last slide,
yeah.
Take a message, it's really, it would apply to like taking a ticket or entering a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I hear most from other staff members is a frustration. So-and-so entered a ticket, but I don't know where the person is. I want to help this person, but it's not clear how to reach the person.
Right.
I don't know what phone they called on, because they're calling from home, and the ticket just says this is for so-and-so professor, but they're at home.
Yep.
So this is, it's really key when you're taking down issues to really follow everything listed there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of things that people will assume about a person that takes a good message. You're thorough, you're a good communicator, you care about the customer, you're concerned that your colleague has the information to do the job. So you might think of it just as a message, but in an assessment of an individual professionally, there are all of these other criteria that are actually being assessed when you do these kinds of things well. Okay, so time is valuable for everyone. So the way that we respond to a customer, the promptness, the responsiveness, and the energy that we have. So I remember hiring people for a production line in a manufacturing company, and part of the way that they didn't know what to do, but they would make their selection based on the sense of urgency they had. And there's just something in a person you could see, the way they move. I've interviewed people where they come into the, room and they're, they kind of have this slow gait and they just feel like they drain the room. There's like no energy. I'm like, no, we got stuff to do. We got stuff to, come on. And, somebody that has a little bit of energy, hi, may I help you? What can I do for you? That kind of energy, they have a chance. That person just moseying on in and doing things 2 miles an hour, oh my God, no. So be careful about how you're perceived. I know you're up late and you're studying and you're writing papers and you're tired. I get it. But trying to muster up that energy is very, very important for how you are perceived, and being consistent about it. Be mindful. When I said in the beginning, be reflective. Give yourself a little bit of, self-reflection over the course of the week. How do I move? How do I appear? Hi, can I help you? Before somebody, can I help you with something? Before they even get to your desk. That's a sense of urgency. Like, whatever you need is important to me. How can I help you with it? Okay? So, there's going to be stuff you don't know. There's no problem with that. It's okay. No one knows everything. You're going to get questions you're unaware of, unaware of the answer. As a customer service person, as a technical support person, and whatever you do, I don't care if you're president and CEO of a company, there's going to be stuff you don't know. And it's humbling, and it's a reality, and just be able to say, you don't have to say it to the customer, but if you don't know, acknowledge that. Okay, but still exude confidence, because you don't have to know everything. How may I help you? Please help me to understand more about this problem. I'm taking notes, I'm listening. Okay, hold on one moment, please. Now you go to ask for help to see how you can maybe get them the answer if you don't know what that is. Okay? You don't say, oh, I don't know about that. You've got the wrong person. That's not what you say. Okay? You don't tell the customer, I don't know. But you can tell the customer, you know what? Let me get right back to you on that one, okay? Or you go and you talk to a colleague, you go and talk to a supervisor. The answers are available to you. Okay, get that support. But don't be uncomfortable and don't feel like you have to know everything, because you won't know everything. You learn by doing, you'll learn by some mistakes, you know, you're going to learn by successes, and you're going to learn by asking.
I find people appreciate if you don't know the answer yourself. If you tell them, I don't know, but I know who does.
Right.
If you give me a moment, I'll get back to you.
Right.
Because you're going to follow up with them and let them know who does or who doesn't. And they're going to appreciate it because that you did the running for them.
I agree. I agree. If you say I don't know and you leave it there, that's one thing. If you say I don't know but I know who does, or I don't know the answer but I can find out, can you give me a moment, or let me call you right back, and actually do it.
You aren't captains of battleships. It's okay not to know.
Yes.
Great movie.
Okay. So, okay, that's okay. So using all of your tools to find out the answer. So remember I talked about professionals being competent, growing in their competence. So take it, I don't know this answer, but I want to learn. When you pass the baton and you just give it to someone else, you didn't learn anything. You haven't expanded your ability, your competence. So maybe you have to go and ask someone, and you say, Caleb, how do you do this? But explain it to me so the next time you're ready to do it. And take notes, okay? That's a pet peeve of many managers. Someone will come in and they're here for training and they have nothing to write with and no notebook. It's like, how are you going to retain all of this? Okay, so have a notebook, say, you know, I want to learn how to do this. Can you show me? Okay. So you need to find out, of course, it's the only reason you're there, to learn, and then call them back promptly. Even if you haven't found out yet, even if what you learned is that the person's on vacation and believes for the next 3 weeks, tell them something. Say, look, you know, the point person that I contacted to resolve your issue is away on vacation and won't return until Monday. If your issue is urgent, I'm going to escalate it and see if I can find another team member that's able to handle this issue for you. But that engagement, that conversation, that responsiveness, that demonstrates, wow, this person's really professional. They're on it. And I feel cool, like, okay, you're going to take care of it. I feel like this person's working on it, and I might have to be a little more patient, but they're working on it. Of course, we talked about it, but don't leave people on hold for a long time. That's, you know, a horrible thing. You know, even if it's going to be a while, say, I realize you're still holding, I'm working on it, can you give me another moment or two? So if a little time passes, return to them and let them know you're working on the issue. Okay? Okay, so when they're mad, when you encounter a customer that's angry, it will happen. Okay, but they're angry at the problem, the issue, their frustration because they don't know how to do it and it keeps happening to them, and they're not mad at you. So step out of that personalization of it, step out of that, you know, you know, don't get mad at me, I didn't do it, I didn't put that program on your computer. It's not personal, all right? So separating yourself from the problem and be polite. So when there is an issue and someone is mad, the best thing you can do to de-escalate is to not match their tone, not match their energy, and to stay as calm as a cucumber. They're yelling, I'm sick of it. I understand you're upset. I am so sorry you're having this problem. You stay even and cool. And eventually when they've gotten it all out, tell me how I can help you. They start to de-escalate, okay? So always keep your cool. Always keep your peace. They're angry at what's happening to them, all right? Acknowledge the problem. I get it. You're frustrated. I would be too. I see what you're saying. Let me see how I can help you. Try to find a solution. And if you can't immediately resolve it and they're highly upset, you make sure you're in constant contact with that individual to make sure the problem gets resolved. Okay? Okay. Like I said, even when it sounds like they're mad at you, remind yourself. Not taking this personally. This isn't about me. I had she's a faculty member, matter of fact, and she took one of my classes, and she carries a Q-tip in her planner, so she can remind herself to quit taking it personally, because she would get very upset when people were upset with her. So that's her reminder, a Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. To say, wait a minute, let me distance myself and not be so frustrated by this. That worked for her, and she'd say, you know what? Okay, breathe, it's not that serious. Okay? So don't be afraid, don't be fearful as you enter into, this career, whatever the career is that you're entering into. Don't be afraid to not know. Be curious. Be interested. You're not going to know everything. Knowing comes with experience and exposure. So take every opportunity to learn. So don't have a fear that I don't know this, I may not know this, I may not do well. Going back to communicating with your supervisor, hey, I really don't feel very secure in this particular area. I'd like to learn more. Can you help me? Talk, communicate, work with your colleagues, your coworkers, see somebody is strong in an area, work together, and you won't have to worry about not knowing. You will know in time. Okay? Don't be afraid to ask for help from your manager or seek advice, from a colleague or a friend that might be in another employment situation, or your coworkers. Okay? Learn to ask the right questions before you diagnose an issue. Okay, when you're dealing with a customer, and you'll learn this, and I'm sure you have scripts and things that you have to work from, or checklists or something of that nature. But learn how to become expert in diagnosing an issue, because that will link you to having an expertise in logic and problem solving, which is a higher level skill that will move you through the ranks of an organization more than just tasks. Okay? So you know how to do something and you do it, that's a great task and skill to have. But now you know how to take that information, diagnose other things, foresee other issues, and plan to prevent those. That's a higher level skill. Being proactive, identifying that, wow, you know what, we've had 10 callers call with the same problem. Maybe I need to escalate this issue to so-and-so, so there's something bigger going on here that we need to resolve. That's higher level thinking. Okay? Okay. So, and remember to document well. So this goes to Caleb's point. Documentation, whether it's in my field of human resources or your fields, documentation is critical. How clear are you about what happened? And don't take it from the perspective of the person seeing it and doing it, which is you. Take it from the perspective of the person that has no exposure to the problem that you're dealing with. You want to make sure that they are crystal clear on who the person was, where they are, what kind of computer they have, what is their need, what is their problem, when they called, what they were told, and what they expect going forward. So being clear and being concise will also lend to your reputation of being a good communicator and a solid documenter. Okay. And check that there aren't any missing pieces. Don't do things just to get done and check the box and say, okay, I did it, I did it, I did it. Did I miss something? Is there something more? Err on the side of over-communication. More is better when it comes to documentation. It's better to be there and not used than to be needed and to not be there. Okay? Okay? So building relationships with customers is, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, they have a great encounter with you, they're going to want to talk to only you. And as you build up that reputation, that becomes this professional reputation. Wow, everybody keeps calling for Sue. Everybody keeps calling for Tom. What is that about? Because that person delivers prompt, excellent, complete, careful service. All right? And it's not just in service industries. It's whatever you choose to do. You build that reputation, and your customer, your client, your coworkers, your colleagues, your direct reports, they will be smiling when they have a great relationship with you and they trust you and they have great experiences with you. Okay? Have confidence in yourself. Again, you're learning, and there's going to be more to learn and more to do, but don't ever feel like you should have known it all or that you're coming in at a deficit. Employers, we understand that. I have interns that work for me, and I was talking to them about this today. So look, in preparing them for interviews and things like that. They said, we have compassion. We don't expect you to come out of school knowing how to do everything. What we expect is that there are these basics, that there's this hunger, this sense of urgency, this sense of wanting to be effective, wanting to grow, wanting to develop and learn. So you're looking more for that tenacity and that light and that energy than you are for specific, I did this, I did that, I did this. Okay, you can have people that do that, but they don't have all the other really important stuff. So there are these hard skills, which is I know how to fix this, and I know how to make this, or I know how to write that. But then there are these soft skills. And those are things that you only learn by a reputation and interacting with people. So take the opportunity you have to build this reputation here, so those references can follow you and prepare the way for opportunities for your future. And then when you go throughout your career, you're going to have additional references, all about your professional reputation. And that becomes who you are, who you're known to be in the work world. So, think about it beyond just this moment and how it can apply to you. Deliver on your promises, do what you say you're going to do, be reliable, dependable, solid, clear, direct, a straight talker, so people can trust you. Okay? And don't forget to be patient and say please, say thank you, all the little things, and always go the extra mile. Okay? Don't be the one that says, that's enough of that, I'm going home for the day. Oh, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time to go. I'm not taking care of that call. I'll let the next team member do that. You want to be the kind of person that goes the extra mile, that does what's necessary to get the job done right and well, not just to be done with your shift or day. Okay? So it's a winding road, your profession, your career, what you're learning and growing and doing, and the feedback you're getting and the information that you're gathering. So, use every experience. I've learned from my great experiences, and I've learned from bad experiences who I never want to work for or work with or wouldn't want to do, but I've learned something. Okay? So be mindful and watchful and vigilant about what your experiences are and how they can kind of be useful to you as you go forward. Okay? And always, when you end with any customer or any interaction, is there anything else I can do for you? Is there anything else I can help you with? I'm sure you're saying that already, but that's always a nice little touch to make sure that we've been complete and no one feels rushed.